If you've been playing Fortnite as much as we have, then you'll know the huge map is a source of excitement and fun in itself. However, what you may not have noticed is how some of the places in the game seem to have taken inspiration from places in the real world. Today, we're going to tell you about them, but before we get into all of these epic Fortnite locations in real life, subscribe to TheGamer and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never miss any of our Fortnite videos. Loot Lake. One of the biggest changes which took place in Season 6 of Fortnite happened at Loot Lake, when the infamous Big Purple Cube, nicknamed Kevin by its legions of devotees, melted into it at the end of Season 5. We all felt a little sad. However, things changed, with the lake glowing purple before a floating island appeared over it. Then, all of a sudden, the island split and collapsed, filling the lake with a few small islands. Of course, with such a monumental change, it didn't seem right to call it Loot Lake anymore, so it got a new name, and we all said hello to Leaky Lake. Anyway, before the big map change, when it was still known as Loot Lake, we couldn't help but think that it reminds us of somewhere off the coast of Kingston, Ontario, Canada, at the place where Lake Ontario becomes the St. Lawrence River just over the border from the United States. There's one specific island that looks a lot like the one in Loot Lake. The area is known as the Thousand Islands, although in truth, there are actually 1,864 of them. Many of them are inhabited, and they're often used as a vacation getaway center. Now, we don't think you'd go to Loot or Leaky Lake to take a holiday unless you wanted an oddly stressful time fighting off opponents and trying to run from the storm, but we think there's definitely a resemblance between its islands and the Canadian ones. Whichever way you look at it, there's a similarity which makes us want to take a trip there. We will, of course, leave our weapons and pickaxes at home though. Clock Tower. Tilted Towers is one of the most iconic and notorious places in Fortnite. If you want to go hand-to-hand or gun-to-gun with some opponents in a bout of urban warfare, we'd say this was the place for you. There are, as you can imagine, quite a lot of buildings which might bear a resemblance to places in our world, but the one we're going to talk about today is the Clock Tower. Yes, if you've been going wild in Tilted Towers and thought you've seen it somewhere before, chances are you've seen it in London. It reminds us a lot of the Elizabeth Tower at the House of Parliament. If you're thinking you don't know that, we're pretty sure you do, because it's better known by the name of the bell which hangs in there. Yes, it's Big Ben. This iconic landmark is 11 floors high and has towered above the capital of the United Kingdom since it was built in 1859. However, while it was originally called the Clock Tower, everyone named it after the bell, and people still do that. Even though it was officially renamed in honor of Queen Elizabeth II in 2012, people still call it Big Ben. The coolest thing is the tower actually has a slight tilt, meaning it's a, you guessed it, tilted tower. If you're planning a trip to London anytime soon, here's a word of warning though. The tower and its bell are currently being repaired, so you won't be able to see the legendary clock face or hear it chime until work is completed in 2021, meaning Fortnite is your best option. Loot Llama. When Fortnite came out, there were 3 ways of getting hold of equipment. First off, you could find it at random, as floor loot scattered around a map. It was usually, but not always, inside buildings. This was the safest way to do things. Secondly, if you took someone out, you could loot them and upgrade your gear this way. That was if they hadn't killed you first, in which case you'd be hard-pressed to do anything. The third way was to wait for a supply drop to take place and get some gear from there. The risk with the crates was there was always a chance someone with a sniper rifle would hide nearby and use the drop as a trap to eliminate players. This all changed when people started noticing brightly colored loot llamas around the map. When you hit these pinata-like creations with your pickaxe, they'd burst open, revealing lots and lots of loot. This was good and lent itself to a range of challenges, both official and unofficial. Now, while many things and places in Fortnite have been inspired by things in our world, here it's in reverse. In London, England, back in the summer of 2018, a supply llama turned up at a phone booth. We don't know what it was doing there, but we certainly liked it. There were also reports of llamas showing up all over Europe, with sightings noticed in Barcelona, Spain, Warsaw, Poland, and Cologne, Germany. With our world not quite being the one in Fortnite though, we don't know if anyone tried to attack one of them with a pickaxe. If they did, we have no idea what they found inside. Dusty Divot. Fortnite is the game which keeps on changing, but it always seems to do it in an evolutionary sort of way. Things are very rarely random, they just get improved and renewed. Let's look at Dusty Depot. This was a location which was fairly run-of-the-mill and average. There was some loot there, but it wasn't brimming with it, and the equipment you might have found there was never anything to write home about, so it was doing its thing, being a group of warehouses, when one day, a meteor appeared in the sky. With Fortniters being Fortniters, if that's even a word, they tried to work out where it was going to hit. While a lot of people thought that it was going to take out Tilted Towers, it turned out they were wrong when the meteorite smashed into Dusty Depot, destroying it and leaving a crater that became known as Dusty Divot. Now, if you looked at the crater, you might think its shape was random, but you'd also be wrong. The crater at Dusty Divot was more or less exactly the same shape as the meteor crater in Arizona, USA. This was the site of a collision more than 50,000 years ago, and it's seen as being the finest example of the devastation left by a meteorite hit anywhere in the world. Here's a fun fact. Even though it's believed that the meteorite, which struck in the American Southwest, was only about 160 feet across, it left a hole with the depth of 560 feet and around 3/4 of a mile across. We don't think the one in Fortnite is that big. The map. One of the reasons why Fortnite has become so popular is because it's a game that's continuously fresh and exciting. It's not a case of things changing from season to season either, because the battle bus route is random, and you'll probably land at a different location every time, which means you'll need to learn to adapt to your surroundings. There's one thing which stays the same every time you play it though, and that's the island where the battle royales take place. Chances are you know what it looks like, but have you ever taken a step back and thought what else it looks like? Well, we and a bunch of other Fortnite players think it looks a bit like a map of Poland. We like this idea, even though it's a little bit controversial, and we'll tell you why. While Fortnite's main developer is Epic Games, part of it was created by the company People Can Fly. Now, People Can Fly is a firm based in, you guessed it, Poland, so we think they may have had the map the way it was as a tribute to their home country. Of course, it isn't a perfect replication of the Eastern European country, but it's a close enough representation to make us think that there's some truth to the theory. There are a lot of theories surrounding this. Some people say it's just a coincidence brought about by Poland's vaguely round shape, while others say there's some truth to it and are willing to back it up. They say places on the map correspond to places in the country. We don't know whether it's true, but it just might make sense. Wailing Woods. One of the more iconic as well as more mysterious locations inside Fortnite is Wailing Woods. It's a mysterious place with the capacity to delight, surprise, and shock. Many Fortnite noobs have come to grief here, especially in the confusing maze-like bunker located at the heart of the forest. Our tip for new players who find themselves in Wailing Woods is to stay outdoors and don't go into the bunker, especially if the storm is coming. Anyway, we at TheGamer are suckers for a cool forest, so we wondered whether there was a real-life Wailing Woods anywhere. It turns out there is. If you ask Redditor Atomic Blue anyway. He was hiking in Scotland one day when he looked down a mountain and saw the Fortnite location beneath him. Well, he saw something which looked one heck of a lot like Wailing Woods, at least. If you take a look at the photo he took, you'll see the resemblance is uncanny. The forest seems to be the right size and the right shape. It even has a clearing of some kind at its center, which only reinforces things. We don't know what's in the clearing though. We hope it's not another confusing bunker to get trapped in when the storm starts to blow in. There's only one very minor problem with Atomic Blue's theory. The issue someone might take is we aren't entirely sure exactly where in Scotland our Wailing Woods are. Regardless, it's really similar, and it only goes to show what you can notice out there if you make sure to keep your eyes open and your mind on Fortnite. Pleasant Park. Philadelphia punks The Wonder Years once said they'd given suburbia their all, and now they were nothing. Fortniters, on the other hand, have given suburbia a massive gun battle, and now they're on the road to a victory royale. While if they've played in Pleasant Park, they have. That's because Pleasant Park is one of the best places in the game to take part in a wonderfully destructive bout of destruction. It's the picket fence suburban idol turned into a post-apocalyptic war zone, and we love doing our thing there. Did you know, though, that Pleasant Park is based at least partially on a real-life location? Well, we think it is anyway. In Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, there's a park called Mount Pleasant Park. It's located in the area of Mount Pleasant, and if you take a look at the buildings, we think you'll find them familiar. Yep, we're calling it that this was the inspiration for Pleasant Park. Of course, it isn't the only place in the world called Mount Pleasant. There's at least one in London, where there's the UK's biggest postal sorting office, as well as one in Liverpool, England. These alternatives are nothing like the Pleasant Park we've all grown to love in Fortnite though, so we're giving a big shout out to Vancouver and the area it inspired. Another theory is that it's all just a massive coincidence, but we aren't sure we agree. For starters, the houses in Mount Pleasant, Vancouver have a very similar design to the ones in Fortnite. Also, the layout of the area is spookily similar, which makes us wonder if someone from Epic Games is familiar with Canada's West Coast. Haunted Hills Castle. Season 6 saw some major developments on the island where Fortnite takes place. While most people were looking at the legacy of Kevin the Big Purple Cube, which was fair enough, on the outskirts of the map, another thing was taking place. In Haunted Hills, the most spooky of all Fortnite areas, there was a new development. Without anyone really noticing, an old ruined castle appeared in the area. With Season 6 taking place around Halloween time, and with the castle being in Haunted Hills, it only made sense to assume the castle was haunted, which it probably was, but that's a debate for another day. However, the castle reminded us of another historical building which has been subject to, or some might even say plagued by, stories of ghosts and hauntings. Glamis Castle sits in the county of Angus in the Highlands of Scotland and has quite some history. In 1034, King Malcolm of Scotland was murdered at a hunting lodge on the site. In the 14th century, King Robert II granted it to his son-in-law Sir John Lyon, and it's stayed in his family ever since. Legends surround the castle, with one saying a vampire child is born there every generation, and others are saying the ghost of Earl Beardy can be seen playing cards there. The current owners try to downplay Glamis Castle's ghostly history, but the stories are still there. Incidentally, if the name is familiar, it's because Queen Elizabeth II's mother was born there, and it features prominently in William Shakespeare's play Macbeth. We don't know yet what myths and legends will come from the Haunted Hills Castle, but we can't wait to find out. Those were some of the craziest Fortnite locations in real life. What's your favorite real-life Fortnite location? Did we leave anyone's out? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to TheGamer for more Fortnite videos like this one. Thanks for watching.